Welcome back, everybody. We left off yesterday where I'd shown you how to do triple crochet, and today we're going to carry on and start to crochet our Christmas table mat. And to do this, let me just go through what you need. So you need some double knit yarn, and I'm using Alize Cotton Gold, which is a nice smooth yarn to use. I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook, but you can use a 4mm as the pattern says, or even a 4.5 if you wanted to make it bigger. But I'm using a 3.5, and it's a clover hook, and I do find it easier to crochet with a clover hook, especially because of my Parkinson's. It helps me to have a firmer grip. And I'm using a 3.5 instead of the 4 that it says on the pattern, because I've actually loaned my clover 4mm hook out. So let's begin. So as I say, you need 25 grams each of red and green, some stitch markers, a pair of scissors, a needle to sew your ends in, so that's a yarn needle, and a pencil, and let's begin. So let me just show you this pattern that I've made, and as you can see, I've tried to make the pattern simple by explaining what the rounds are and then putting some markers in to show you how many of each stitch you should do. So I'll just show you as I go along. So to start off then, our first row is telling us 3 triple into the ring, chain 1, and do this 5 times more. And then we'll have a total of 6 sets of 3 triples with a chain between them. So I've got 3 triples that I started on yesterday's video. So what I'm going to do, and I find this really a good tip for when you're learning, is I tick off when I've done those stitches so I know where I am. And then the next thing I'm going to do is chain 1. I'm then going to cross that off. I'm then going to do another 3 triples. One. 2. 3, all going into the same centre of that ring. And I am just a little shaky today. And then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to mark that off on my pattern. So I've done 2 sets now of triples. So I'm going to pause the video now, and I'll meet you when you've done 6 sets of 3 triples and 6 chains. So I'll be back in a moment. So I've done my first 5 sets of triples and my chain, and I just want to show you that as you can see, I haven't got an awful lot of space left for my last 3 triples, so what I need to do is just pull it round slightly so that it gives me a bit more room for those last 3 triples. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then to finish off we need to join that ring, so we're going to go into that very first triple, the very top of it. Can you see the 2 loops at the top of the stitch? We're going to put our hook through those 2 loops, pull the yarn through, try again, pull the yarn through, and then pull it through to slip stitch it together into our circle. Now, you've probably noticed that I'm using my stitch markers, and I'm just going to explain why I'm using these stitch markers. So I've put a stitch marker in every chain space that I've made. So after every 3 triples, I've put a marker in. And that is going to help me to know where to put my stitches in the next round. Okay, so let's have a look at that next round then. So it's telling us that we're going to 3 triple, chain 1 and 3 triple into each of our chain 1 spaces. Yeah, so that was my last chain 1 space that I did before I joined. So I'm going to my ball's running away from me. So I'm going to start by doing 1, let me just start that again. As I say, sometimes my tremors are a little bit worse than at other times, but got to be determined and carry on. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's 1, 2, 3. So I've done my 3, and my pattern is telling me now to chain 1 and do another 3 in that same hole that we made with our chain 1 in the previous round. And this is where my stitch markers really help me, because I'm now going to chain one and then I'm going to move to my next chain one gap. So if I take my stitch marker out, it's showing me where I should be, and yarn round, so 3 triple, 1, 2, if anybody is watching who's got Parkinson's, they may be similar to me in that sometimes when you're getting near to the time when you take your medication, you do get, your symptoms can sometimes get a little worse, and then they get better again once you've taken your medication. So that is my third. So I've done my next set. As you can see, that's what's happening. We're getting 3 triples, a chain and 3 triples in each chain space. And I can now move on to where my next stitch marker is. I think when you do begin, when you're learning to crochet, it's important to use stitch markers. It just gives you a little help, so that you're not worrying that you're actually crocheting into the wrong place. And I've done 2, and you know, I could have been marking these off as I went along. So I've done 2 and I've got another 4 to go. So again, I'll pause the video and I'll meet you back to when you've actually done all your 6 triples. So I've now finished my second round and it looks like this. So you should have 6 sets of your 3 triple, 1 chain, 3 triples. And so don't be worried that it's not looking like a circle yet, because it will eventually start to turn into a circle. So let's have a look at our next row. So our next row is telling us that we're going to do 3 triple in our chain 1 space and then chain 1 12 times. So we've got 12 gaps. So we start in our first chain 1 space, which is in between those what we call fans. So that's my first 3 done. I'm going to chain 1 and then can you see in the middle of those 6, that's where my chain 1 is. Now if you want to put markers in to those before you start, the ones in between those where it's difficult to see, then do that. Put a stitch marker in all your gaps. after you've done your 3 triples. Yeah? So, but I'm just going to carry on for now, and I'm going to go into my next chain 1 and do 3 triples. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then I'm in my next gap, 3 triples. So in every chain 1 space that I put in the previous round, I'm putting 3 triples and then doing a chain 1. So I hope you can see how this pattern is working. So again, if you want to pause the video while you finish going round, and I'll meet you at the end, because what we're going to do next is to change colour. So I've now finished all my 3 triples and 1 chains, and I'm going to join this into my very first triple that I made with a slip stitch. And now you can see it's getting to be a bit more like a circle, and what you should have are 12 sets of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we should have 12. And now what we're going to do is change our colour, because we're going to now, if we look at our pattern, we've done the middle of the mat, and we're now going to do the second part in green. So to change colour then, I'm going to cut my yarn and leave quite a bit of length so that I can sew those ends in nice and firmly, and wrap my yarn round, pull it through, and then just pull it through tightly, and there we are. And that's the middle of my mat done. Now what I suggest you do is you can sew in your ends as you go along, but I would suggest that you always leave this first one at the back of your work, so that you can actually distinguish which is the back and which is the front. So the back of your work has got that starting end, and the front of your work is, you can see, neater. So I will sew in this end just to show you how to do it. So I'm going to thread my needle, yeah, and then I'm going to, if you can see my last stitch here where I fastened off, I'm just going to put my needle through that next stitch, so it takes it to the back of my work. And now I'm going to just put my needle through some of the stitches at the back, and I'm going to go one way, then I'm going to go another way, and then I'm going to go back again. So I always do this 3 times just to make sure that it's well and truly fastened in. And then what you can do then is pull it taut and cut off your yarn very close to your work so that you can see that ends sewn in. And now we're ready to join our next colour. So we can take our green. There are lots of different ways to change colour. I do it a couple of different ways, so I can show you and see which you think's easiest. So you start in any of those 1 chain spaces and just hook your yarn through and pull it through that gap, and then I've got both pieces of my yarn and I'm just going to wrap it round and pull it through so it makes it firm, and then I can move my short yarn out of the way and I'm ready to start again. The other way that I could do it is by doing my slip knot as we did in the first video, and I put my yarn through our chain space, pull my slip knot fairly tight, pull it through, and then just secure it with a stitch. Yeah, so that's 2 ways of changing colour. So I'm now going to move on to round 4, and our next part of the pattern is to put 3 triple in the chain 1 space, chain 3, 3 triple in the next chain 1 space, and then chain 2. So it's alternately chain 3, triple 3, chain 3, and triple 3, chain 2. Okay? So let's begin. So we're going to do our 3 triple, one. First one always seems to be a bit harder to do, and then when you get going, it just seems to come a bit easier. So that's my 3 triple, and I'm going to chain 3, and then in my next chain I'm going to do 3 triple, and chain 2, and then 3 triple, 3, and so on. So I want you to go around following that pattern. So it's 3 triple chain 3, 3 triple chain 2, 3 triple chain 3, 3 triple chain 2. And again, I'll meet you back at the end of that first row of green. So here we are, and I've finished my first round of the green, and I've slip stitched to join it into that very first triple crochet. So now, as you can see, it's starting to go into more of a round shape, and I'm going to leave this video here at this point, and I'm going to post it, and then on our next video we'll continue to build on making our mat. So for now, bye, and I'll see you soon.